Okay, welcome back. We are ready for the next session. And this session is truly interactive. It's lined up for you, and it promises to ignite thought-provoking discussions. Our next guest is a recognized thought leader in manufacturing operations management with over 40 years of experience. His session, titled Industry 4.0, Vision versus Reality, invites us to reflect on the journey from vision to reality in Industry 4.0, along with assessing our progress along the maturity curve. It is my privilege to introduce Snoeij, President and Senior Consultant at the Manufacturing Operations Management Institute. Jan, stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for your kind words. Interactivity, with such a large group, that's a bit difficult. But we will try to do our best, and I hope you will join me, and as actually you did already yesterday. All the questions you were bothered with were coming from me, so you can blame me for that. But I'm really pleased to be here today, and for such a big audience. I've been to quite a few events, but this is a record event, I would say. I'm really pleased that management of critical manufacturing invited me at some point in time. And I'm happy to share some thoughts with you. I hope that my presentation will show up at some point in time. Do I have to click something, or I have no clue? Anyway, next to my... this was the introduction slide, okay. We'll go over a number of things today, and I'd just like to share some thoughts, despite the fact I discovered I have the longest slot in the program. For me, it was still the challenge to what not to tell, because there's so much to tell, and we have heard great stories from all the other presenters yesterday and today, and I will refer to some of them here and there, because it's great information they shared with us. But there's way more, because it's something that has come to life over decades and decades of hard work of many people around the globe. And of course, in the center are the manufacturers. And that's where my heart is as well, manufacturing. The people in the factories, and especially the people who do the job. So basically, I should roll up my sleeves and start working. And that's also why I did not take on my jacket. So, some observations, and I will make use of some research, recent research by Julie Fraser, and we have some recordings from her explaining a few things there. Of course, and that's manufacturing the age of AI. That's the buzzword of today, you may say. But also, smart manufacturing, Industry 4 and even 5, as we have heard yesterday, and Francisco had some remarks on that. I will add a few as well, different ones. But it's basically about the challenges we are facing daily as manufacturers in a, dynamic world with all kinds of things. And the big question is, of course, all those new technologies, new methodologies, approaches, best practices, are we ready to embrace them and leverage them and make something out of that? That we can improve our own performance even more. And that's basically the core, and how to do so, how to get ready and decide for those things to do and invest in that helps us in the best possible way to be a successful manufacturer. So, if you look at the world, and we all know COVID-19. I hope you didn't suffer too much from it, but it's still there. Actually, I mentioned Julie. She had 2 weeks ago in a call, she had COVID for the first time. It was not really serious, fortunately. She recovered quickly, but it's not gone. And what it will do next to us, we don't know. But what we did experience a couple of years ago when it started, that many manufacturers also faced new challenges. Demand gone. Because if you are a brewer, for example, you deliver your beer to pubs, restaurants, etc. They were closed. A large part of the demand was gone just over sudden. Something you can't predict. What to do? And one of my friends at a brewer in the Netherlands, Swinkels, they thought, okay, we have to come up with a plan B. What to do? And they said, okay, sanitizers, that's what we need. There is alcohol in there, as is in beer. Can we make sanitizers instead of beer? They did. It was not easy. I won't bother you with all the details. It's also a challenge, but they managed to do so. And there are quite a few others, as you can see on this slide as well. There are many examples of creative thinking, out-of-the-box thinking companies, people in those companies who said, okay, what can we do? Others had to ramp up their production. If you look at the ventilator producers, they couldn't respond quick enough to the market. And if you realize it's not only production, making the stuff, but if you realize that in a high-end ventilator, there are something like 200 suppliers involved around the globe to deliver parts to make that thing, and then it has to be delivered everywhere in this world. So the logistics and all the other nightmares, you could say, just all of a sudden there. What to do? Big challenge. Another example of another customer we were working for, they make products for cathodes, in this case, for the aluminum industry. And the raw materials are coming from Russia to a large extent. Well, you know what happened with the Ukraine war. No stuff from Russia anymore. And next to that, also, the customers were buying this stuff, but what happened? And that's, of course, you have to look at that, the logistics to getting the raw materials in, and if they could get some raw materials, it was not of the same constant quality. So they had to adapt the process in order to get still a good quality product out. All kinds of challenges. And because of that also, the energy prices went up. And they used quite a bit of that. So from cost control, cost reduction, all kinds of things we were facing just over a sudden as manufacturers. And there are many more examples, and probably you were involved or impacted by COVID, by electricity or the energy prices, the Ukraine war as well. And what comes next, I have no clue. It's unpredictable to a certain extent. Or you could say that makes life a little bit less boring. Okay, see it from the positive side. But it's something you have to make thoughts about. So yeah, it is about your production definition, because you have to make different products. It's about your supply chain logistics. It's also about your energy management and much more. Just over a sudden. And then you have your daily challenges. Every day again. Like visibility and transparency of what really happens on your shop floor. That's one of the key issues we always talk about when we talk about MES. And connectivity to your equipment and sensors and whatever is there in your automation layer on the shop floor. Getting data from that. Getting information from your people on the shop floor, and maybe others. In order to know exactly what happens, to be in control, to get a predictable results of all your efforts together with everyone in the factory. That's a challenge. And of course, agility. I already mentioned demand can change just all of a sudden by the big crises. But also just on a daily basis that this is happening. It's we consumers, that's all of us. Our mind, what to buy or what not to buy, is changing all the time. The dynamics of the demand is bigger than ever before. So take that into account and create a proper plan for the next weeks or months what to produce. Interoperability, collaboration, root cause analysis, getting that data and know exactly why something happens. It's not always that bad. If you have a best practice, a golden run or a golden batch, you want to know why. Because then you can do it more often and improve your overall performance. What do you think of all those people who are going to leave us because of retirement? I'm the living example. I'm one of the last baby boomers, you could say. We go away. Part-time maybe, okay. But all our knowledge and expertise and the things we know about how to do things will be lost unless we take care of it. But it happens despite the fact we know years ahead that people will retire. But also in the current economic situation, where we have less vacancies than vacant jobs, less people available, less unemployed people, I must say, than vacancies, it's a challenge. People maybe go away because another company has a better offer to them. Same story. All that expertise will go away. And the dynamics already mentioned that you have to change your products and processes all the time. So there's a lot, and this is just a short list. You can probably make this list 10 times as long. It's just mentioning what is daily a challenge to you as a manufacturer. So you are a manufacturer. That's great. But the basic thought is, of course, that you transform raw materials into valuable products, adding value. Not in your perception, maybe, but it should be in the perception of that consumer. That's also you and me, by the way. We are the consumers. We, in the end, use those products, and we decide whether we pay for it, buy the stuff or not. So you better make, as you are involved in that entire value chain or supply network, what makes sense, what is value to your final consumer. And do only that what is adding value in that perspective. That's the key thing. And for that purpose, we need to utilize all our resources in an efficient and effective way. And of course, we need to be compliant to all kinds of regulations as well. And last but not least, probably the most important thing is agility. Because nothing is so unpredictable. Well, I won't blame you, but as I am as a consumer. And that agility is important. Meanwhile, our shareholders or other people ask from us to improve all the time. The financial results, but also other aspects of our strategy, our strategic successes. We need to be successful in order to survive as a company. And if you are an employee in such a company, well, you are supposed to contribute to that, of course. And I hope you have fun doing so. But that's important. Another observation, and this is a slide I often use because it's so very true. It's about standardization. And other presenters have mentioned this in multiple ways. Maybe not as a first topic, but they indicated it is an important thing. And it is. In those 40 years, and not in the early years because I was a young guy and what did I know, but later on I learned from my customers, my many customers, that standardization is a great help. Because we don't want to get involved in too complex situations. On the other hand, if something works well, why not make it standard? Do it again. Utilize those best practices. And that's part of standardization. It's standardization of your ways of working, your processes. That's one of the things. But how do you know that you perform well? Well, you have to measure. Measure your performance, your KPIs. But in order to be able to identify your best practices, you have to be able to compare apples to apples. So you need to have the same way of capturing the data, and you know where from, calculating, processing those data, and providing that information to the people who can do something with that. So it's not just the definition of the KPI, and OEE mentioned yesterday already, and it will show up in the poll results as well. That's one of those standard KPIs. If I look at all my customers, how they've done it, how they can capture the data, measure it, and then it's far from standardized. And this is one of the most used KPIs in the world. And we say it's a standard one. But if you look in real life, it's not. This is key. Otherwise, you are not able to identify your strong spots and your strong performances and your weak ones. Oh, I forgot the last one. What's happening? Yeah. That's the most important one, actually. Because if everything would go according to plan, then, of course, it's easy. It's our standard way of working, addressing all the things. Okay. But Mr. Murphy always comes by. I don't want to offend any Irish people, by the way, but it is something that happens. The non-happy flow. What to do then? Well, be prepared. Be prepared for those adverse events. And on Wednesday, I came by plane from Amsterdam to Porto. That's the most convenient way of traveling still. If you have not that much time, of course. Otherwise, you could bicycle or walk or whatever. There are people walking from the Netherlands to north of Spain, which is quite, relatively seen, quite close to Porto, just a few miles extra. But if you don't have the time, flying is great. And I'm really happy that the captain up front and his co-pilot are sitting there doing nothing. It's all automated. They can land and start and land the plane, no problem. They often do it themselves because they need training. But in case something happens which is not the intent, then I'm convinced and happy that these guys are trained to the max to pick the right checklist and act accordingly. For me, that's, and my fellow passengers, of course, it's the best guarantee that we get down on Earth. Oh, no, that's gravity, huh? But safe and sound, and that's the part I'm interested in. Be prepared. And that makes the biggest difference. If you see the numbers, the best in class, 64%, and the laggards only 19%. That's the biggest gap between those two. So it definitely works that way. Standardize, also take into account if something happens which you did not expect or did not plan to happen. As said before, Julie Fraser from Tech Clarity has done some research earlier this year and about, well, what do we expect and how are we progressing right now with, well, artificial intelligence, Industry 4, the modern technologies, and especially speeding that loop from data to effective action. Earlier today, as already mentioned, data in itself, no value. If you can do something, put that data into context, make information, and people can act in the right way based on that data, based on that information, then you create value.
Hi, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to discuss my new research, even though I can't be there with you in Porto today. At Tech Clarity, our mission is to educate the market on the business value of technology. Manufacturing in the Age of AI is a report that's an example of how we do this. This report is based on over 300 manufacturing industry responses to a web-based survey conducted earlier this year. One of the constructs we use to help understand what really works, or define best practices, is to sort the respondents into top performers and others. For this research, we define top performers as those who report that their company is excellent at both agility and continuous improvement, scoring 5 out of 5 on each. They make up 16% of our responses. In the graphics, you'll see top performers appear in blue, and others, the remaining 84%, in gold. One of the topics of your conference is Industry 4.0. Progress on the journey toward Industry 4.0 was a question we asked in this research and in the previous research in 2020 as well, the Manufacturing Data Challenge. We provided 6 possible Industry 4.0 status levels, from no strategy yet, to planning, to one project, to several projects, to many initiatives, to significant progress and results, the top level. What we discovered this time is that top performers are much more likely to have already had success and seen benefits from their Industry 4.0 projects. While less than 1 in 5 of others have achieved this top level, over half of top performers have. And I would say the progress most of us are making toward Industry 4.0 is significant and dramatic.
So what she asked is, what I asked you a similar question yesterday, because if you look at what happened between 2020 and 2023, the same question was asked to a similar amount of people or companies. And you see the yellow bars are representing the results of 2020, 3 years ago. And the blue ones are the results from this year, earlier this year. And you see an important improvement in the significant progress and results, people who are, let's say, leading the initiatives, leading the efforts worldwide. And also in the companies, the number of companies that are having initiatives underway, from 23 to 27%. Getting started, etc. And you see a significant drop here from 13 to 4% if it comes down to no strategy yet. So the ones who ignore Industry 4 are definitely a small minority today, which is great. On the other hand, the green bars are representing the 101 people who responded yesterday, to the same question. And I have no clue whether you are a top performer or something else. That's not the issue here. But it's how did you do, how are you doing today? And I would say, making up your mind, that's still overrepresented if you compare it to the average manufacturing company. But if you look at the significant progress and results on the top, I think great, 19%. It's close to the average, but you're keeping up, and especially getting started here in the middle. That's where we win the battle, you could say. It's getting on. I think it's something that is encouraging. It's a positive trend, and I'm really pleased with that. A follow-up question, and that's the first one on the interactive poll during this session. The technology is a little bit, it's okay, we get the answers, but getting real-time integration into my PowerPoint, that I need the help of the technicians in the back, they will do so. But this is so if you open the app, the live poll, and answer the question, Judy told about the excellent capabilities on a scale from 1 to 5. And she also processed the information of non-5 scores. But what I'm asking now is, what aspects of this list is on a scale from 1 to 5, a 5 for you as a result of what you do with artificial intelligence, what you do with smart and Industry 4. If you have initiatives on the way, do you see those effects already that you really get to the top level? What aspects are for you a 5 in this case? And there may be more than one, of course. And if there is none, then of course you're not there yet, then it's the bottom option. Okay, while you are providing your answers, your response,
Progress on Industry 4.0 goes along with many other differences between top performers and others. Some of the other differences are top performers have a broad understanding of the many elements that matter to Industry 4.0 success. They also have undertaken initiatives to address major challenges in manufacturing data management. They have strong staffing across manufacturing IT and OT, plus AI and data management, which is quite the feat in today's skills market. And finally, they're making more intelligent use of commercial software. With all of this in place, these top performers are significantly more likely to have excellent capabilities. The question provided a 5-point scale, where 5 is excellent, and that's what we show in our chart, but it starts at 1, which is poor. So they could have chosen any number from 1 to 5. Note that top performers are 4 times as likely to excel at integrating IT and OT data and systems. They're also more than 3 times as likely to excel at all other aspects of manufacturing data management processes, from integrating systems to putting data in context to speed and more. But data management's not everything. These top performers are also more than 3 times as likely to have processes and a culture that reflect operational excellence, such as sharing best practices and collaborating among teams. Over the years, I've consistently found that people-oriented aspects are crucial to the success of big initiatives, such as MES and Industry 4.0.
What you see there ranked, that is the same question I asked you just a minute ago. Share best practices for the others, the majority of the group of people she asked this question, is top with 24%. Agree on a single source of truth. That's, of course, are you able to look at your KPIs and know what that means, that you have solid data, reliable data you can trust on to make decisions, etc. The single source of truth, that's often an issue because it's not there. And the others. So I like to ask the technicians in the back of the room to show the results of what you just indicated as answers, as response to this question. Okay. Transform data into actionable insights. For you, the most important one, and integrate IT and OT systems and data at the top. It's still going on, of course. That's always this is a live, no manual handoffs. And of course, there are a few people who are not there yet. Well, it's in line with the answers to the previous questions, I would say. But I'm a little bit, if you see where the others in the survey of Julie, where shared best practices was definitely on top, the top 2. And for you, it's not that important yet. I have no clue. Is there anyone in the audience who want to comment on that? Who said, okay, shared best practice, I didn't put it on my list for an obvious reason. Or is it just too early to tell? Someone want to respond to this? Do you see anyone? Quiet. Okay, well, maybe we do it later on during the lunch. But I think the top 2 is in line with what we have seen with the other research of Julie. It remains 10%. Okay, thanks for your input. Great. What Cindy mentioned, that this session is recorded, yes, it will be made available on the website of Critical Manufacturing, but also you will get a copy of the slides, including the results of the poll, of course. The data will be in there. It will be PDF, so the videos are not shown, but anyway, I will make sure that you get it. Thank you. Okay, smart manufacturing. Of course, there are many buzzwords, and that's what we heard yesterday. Jeff was a master in calling out all those acronyms, and there are way too many, you may say. The hype cycle of Gartner, certain things show up and you never hear from them again after a short while. Everyone has his own opinion and interpretation on smart manufacturing and also Industry 4 and all those other things. We know maybe a few smart people, you may recognize them, but they are old guys from a long time ago. We agree on those. Who are the smart people of today? Who are the smart people in your factory? Big question. Of course, this is a well-known picture. I want to make 2 remarks on this. The initial industrial revolutions, as they were called, were focusing on what we do in our factories. Industry 4, the 4th industrial revolution, adds 2 components to that. First of all, the entire value chain, or supply network. It's a complex thing, but it's included, it's part, because those consumers I showed you are not looking at you as a manufacturer, just one element in that supply network, but to the result of all of you in that network. Secondly, there's an addition to, with respect to the entire life cycle of the products. That's in scope. We look at that as part of our performance as suppliers to those consumers. And of course, if you look at it, it's getting more and more complex, yes, of course. But it's also, every revolution is built on top of a solid foundation of the previous one. And also, standardization is a prerequisite. Think about it, I won't elaborate on that now, but that are important ingredients. So if you look at that, it is a lot. And it's not a threat that we will make people redundant or eliminate people from the process. No, Industry 4 is providing tools, it's supposed to do that anyway, to help us to do a better job. Mike Joost, former president of MESI International, once said that smart manufacturing is equal parts smart technology and smart people. Yes, we will need other people, or maybe not other people, people with other skill sets than they have today. Because we put the bar higher and higher. We want to improve all the time. Well, the only thing to do so is to change also change the skill sets, upgrade, you could say, improve the skill sets of our people. And you best start with the people you do have today. Because find new people in the current market is quite impossible. So train and educate people. But they will help us to solve world's biggest issues, as Key Bradwell is telling. Oh, it's not, that is fallen away, but it's on the top, yes. He made these quotes. And it is offering us, of course, a change, intentionally, because we want to improve, but also a chance to do better. So it's something positive. And it provides the tools. And as any tool, even a hammer, you can use it in a great way as a carpenter, build nice constructions. But if you smashes in another one's head, then it's, of course, the wrong use of that tool. And that's true for any tool. So our intent, of course, is to make use of those tools in the best possible way in order to improve our performance as manufacturers, helping our people to do a better job. Keep that in mind. Some basic visions, strategies, thoughts, what we are investing in and what we're trying to achieve. Smart manufacturing is not new. Google allows us also to search in old documents because they are digitalized today. And then you see in 1840, smart manufacturing was more often referred to than even today. There are more of these things. And if you look, what were the great inventions in those past days and also today? Well, the blueprint, the stapler, the telephone, the zipper, roller bearings, that kind of things were great inventions to have smarter manufacturing than before. It's always relative. Where are you today and where are you intending to go to? And of course, the inexpensive, or relatively seen, computers, storage, and that kind of things, the internet, the networking, because Industry 4 is about connecting. Connecting everything with everything, more or less, if you put it straightforward. So there is more than that, and it's not new. We try to do better always. That's our nature as human beings, I would say. And my personal experience in 1983, it's a long time ago, I was a young guy, just from university, and I was visiting Flanders Technology, a big fair in Belgium. And there they had this poster. To be honest, it was a dream in those days. People working together with robots, seamlessly, safely, etc. Was not possible. Today, cobots, I just mentioned one thing. It's possible. In 1986, I was involved in a project to make a factory paperless. The shop floor, paperless. And if you look at the top right-hand side, you see a small device. It was networked, not wireless, but wired. But it allowed the operators to key in what they have done, ask for questions, they get work instructions, checks were done that they had the right material, did the right job, etc. And management got real-time overview of what happened, how far they were against schedule. Work in progress. Second, real time. The operators in this case were involved because they got paid by their performance. They had a base salary, and on top of that, they could get extra if they performed well. Well, of course, they are interested, or were interested, in how well they performed. And the old-fashioned way was cutting off coupons and counting, and well, things were mixed up, and often there was a fight. It was not correct. With this system, and we showed them how it works, if they scan a barcode, because there's also a barcode pen available, 1983, yeah? The computer, I don't dare to tell what it was. So old, if you look at it now. My smartphone has tons more of capacity than the server we use for this application. But those people were happy because there was no fight, they got the right amount of money every week or month. That's their interest. And that brings me to another element, also mentioned by Tonil yesterday, amongst others, the involvement of the people. As soon as possible, early in the project, because then they will own it, and they will make it to a success. Their involvement is key. IT, OT, external consultants, they can tell whatever they say. But if these people are involved and are convinced, hey guys, this makes my day a great day, instead of frustrating bad day, I will tell you, they will make the project to a success, and the profit, the benefits coming out that we expect up front will be realized, and probably even more than that. So today, we go the next step. And as mentioned already, the dynamics of the demands, faster and faster. It is also that we are going to, order size one more or less, unique products. We try to leverage the benefits of mass production, but customize or personalize even the final product in order to add more value for the final consumer. And also, we do not sell the product. It's more a service kind of thing that's fashionable and definitely working. And I remember one of the presenters, I forgot who it was, telling about power by the hour from the Boeing aircraft, or not Boeing, the Rolls-Royce aircraft engines. They take care of the entire thing. The aircraft is not owning, or not, the engine is not part of the aircraft anymore. It's something separate. Of course, I hope it still will be part of the aircraft, otherwise we get down in an uncontrolled way. But that's that kind of concepts. That's getting more and more fashionable, but also beneficial in the end, I hope, for all of us, that there is a win-win. Consumer and producers. A few words on Industry 5. Some time ago, I had a chat with Francisco. He asked me, what do you think of Industry 5? I think inflation of terms. Many people, many manufacturers, but not only manufacturers, by the way, are still struggling, between quotes, with Industry 3, MES, MOM, and everything which is there. They're not even ready or up to Industry 4. And then we start talking about Industry 5? No way. But the European Commission has another agenda. On their political agenda are a few things. And I think the thought behind this Industry 5 publication of them is not a bad one. If you look at the well-being of the worker, put that at the center, I would say, don't you do that already then? Because they are key for your success. Despite the fact you introduce more technology, it's still equal parts smart people, smart technology, as I mentioned. Use the technology to provide the prosperity and growth of jobs and that kind of things. Initially, we were afraid that too many people would be laid off, made redundant. Today, we have a big problem with getting enough people into our facilities to do the jobs. And not only in manufacturing, by the way, everywhere. How it happened, I have no clue, to be honest. But COVID was typically a turning point and tipping point in this. We have less jobs, for less people to have the vacant jobs filled. That's an issue. So if we could automate certain stupid things, dangerous things, etc., frustrating things, take them away, and let people do great stuff, that they have fun in the job, well, I would say that's beneficial. It's a win-win for all of us. So reduce cost, that's on the agenda of the European Commission. Reduce cost, empower the workers, best talents, evolving skills. Yes, that's what we need in order to keep on improving. And well-being and safety, no, nothing new here. That's not Industry 5, that's Industry 3 and 4, maybe, if you want to. It's something that should be there anyway. So, Industry 5, the term, forget about it. The ideas behind this, I think, absolutely great. Take them into account if you are not doing that already, by the way. For me, it's obvious. Industry 4. There are many technologies, just a few from them on this slide. I want to tell a few things about, or share a few thoughts about digital twin, digital thread. And I'm not the first, and probably also not the last doing so. Of course, we know about the basic concept. We have our entire life cycle from concept design into, well, recycle at the end, if it's okay. So if we try to get all that data, the data about the product in all the stages of its life cycle, and yeah, but how do we do that? So we need to have a seamless integration because there are many different systems and environments involved in that entire life cycle. It's not just one company. There are many people, many systems. So it requires seamless integration. Transfer the data from one to another. Store it in the cloud, you would say, maybe? Okay. Digital thread. At any point in time, you can make a copy of that data, of the product in a stage. And that's what we call the digital twin. And we can work with that. We can use that data in order to speed up all kinds of processes. And especially those things that are related to the creation and, of course, ramping up the production and delivery, all the phases in the life cycle of a product. Speed the life cycle up that we can introduce new products, great products with extra added value, faster, more efficient, more effective. Also, it's not only one stream from left to right, but also get feedback from later stages. For example, it's used to repair or whatever it is, to earlier stages, that we can improve our designs, for example. And of course, we don't re-enter the data time and again, making mistakes. At least I would do so. I make typos all the time, so I'm not a reliable person to do so. But if we design our systems to support this well enough, then it's a seamless integration. We have reliable data at our fingertips at any point in time in this life cycle. And that helps. You know, an old example, but it's also a new example, you could say, is in steel manufacturing. In steel manufacturing, they, amongst others, use these rotating rolls to get from a thick slab, hot rolling, high temperature, to a thin sheet of metal. And later on, it's cold rolling, and many rolling operations are performed in the steel industry. The pair of rolls is key for success for the quality of the product, the properties, especially surface properties, but also other properties of the metal sheet. So the quality of those rolls, the properties of those rolls are key. Of course, they wear out and they have to be replaced, maintained, etc. So the life cycle of those rolls, and it's not only the initial steps, but the ongoing steps of use and repair and etc. are key. And what they in the past did on paper was, of course, keeping track of all those data. That we know this pair of rolls is this history, so we have to do a certain repair, or we can use it for certain purposes, etc. So it's including all the things from cleaning, repair, overhaul, you name it. But also the data of the products we made with that pair of rolls. So it's more than the rolls itself. It's also what came out of using that pair of rolls. You know, it covers everything from order customized, the whole life cycle is included. In the past, we had to do it on paper. It was not digital. It was a thread, absolutely. Today, it can be digital. That's a great example of a digital thread, in this case, in steel manufacturing. There are way more of these examples that we make use of that. Also, that feedback from later stages to earlier stages, redesign, update the design, etc. And in case you improve the design or change the design, that it automatically will flow to later stages, to manufacturing, for example, that they get updated work instructions how to deal with that. So overall, you can produce in less time, faster new product development and introduction, that kind of things. Many benefits coming from that. But also it enables people and groups of people to collaborate. Connectivity, or connecting things and connecting everything, is one key phrase for Industry 4, but collaboration is definitely another, to my opinion. That's the people component, people and technology. They can work together as one virtual team, even if they are active in different stages of that life cycle, or different places on the globe, etc. That's what digital thread may do for you. So I highlight that availability of information, the correct, reliable information, timely is an aspect of this. Communication is related to that, to share that information, and also that collaboration. Some key aspects which are important for success in Industry 4 deployments, because then it becomes part of your business, your operations. But there are also some concerns. Because you can start investing in whatever, in an undefined way, I would say. Now, this is something which is requiring a structured approach. You need to have a strategy. Even if you don't know yet, then your first steps will try to discover of whether something works or not for you. Because technologies, there are many. And for sure, they are not all great for you. You have to be picky and select the right ones. And that means also, because we don't know always what the effect will be, of course there are many great examples already. We are definitely, 10 years on this roadmap, on this road, I would say, but still many uncertainties. So you have to dare to try out and fail, maybe. That's also knowledge, experience you gain from it, and you can leverage and share probably with your peers. What about security? Cybersecurity already mentioned, so I won't elaborate on that. We're not done with that yet. It's not check in the box. But also the culture and the organizational structure. It implies that we need to do our jobs, our work in a different way, organize ourselves differently. We need also to talk about the skills gap. We need people with different skills than they have today or had in the past at least. All concerns which are, well, in my observation, too often forgotten. People get attracted by, wow, this is great technology. And of course, they see a great movie in which everything is simulated. And with ChatGPT or equivalent artificial intelligence, generative ones, we can create a complete world which is not existing, at least not yet. So, to what extent are we fooling ourselves? Go back to that basic thinking. We are manufacturers transforming raw materials into valuable goods. That's what we try to do in our best possible way. That means that the technology should support that. It's business, bottom line results. Of course, the concern about upfront investment is there. Of course, it's far from cheap. There's a risk to it. Well, we are entrepreneurs as well, I guess, so we are dared to take some risk, but there is a limit to that. So are we really ready for Industry 4? For example, for the industry, for the digital thread and twins? It's a good question. So you better check first. Look at that. I don't want to scare you off, but it's also an example. Kees Kitani from GuideSpark, he did some investigation of big digitalization initiatives, big companies, worldwide companies. There are some American names mentioned here, but there were more involved. Major players, $1.3 trillion were spent. Wow. And they expect to get a return on that investment. So it must be more than 1.3 trillion. Wow. It's beyond my imagination, to be honest. There are days that I don't have that money in my pocket, I admit. So, But the bad side of the story, and the amazing part, is that they throw away approximately 70% of that money. You're investing and not taking care of that. And the biggest reason was that they failed dramatically to communicate their goals with the people in their companies. They had a great plan, probably. And they were convinced to spend that money to get a return on investment. But they forgot about to communicate with the people, the employees, what they want to achieve, why, the strategy, the purpose, etc. What's in it for them? They forgot about it. So it's the organization's failure to communicate. And Kees Kitani also gave us some recommendations how to. I won't go over them because I think the last one, it's also mentioned yesterday, to become a change-ready organization. That means that it's not only the management, the CIO or whoever. No, it's everyone. The people on the shop floor particularly, I would say. They need to understand what is the intent, what are we trying to achieve and why. And especially, what's in it for them. You know, if my manager would ask me to do something extra, I'm Dutch, so I'm blunt, I ask immediately, why should I? Mostly I do know, we are good friends, so we understand each other within a second, no problem. But it's a legitimate question in return. Why should I do the extra? Why should I do something differently? Explain to me that I understand the value of my contribution to the total result. And that's something that is key. And that's not particularly for Industry 4 or whatever, it's for any initiative in your manufacturing organizations. Everywhere where people are involved, it's change management. It's as old as we say in Dutch, the way to Rome. It's nothing new, but pay attention to it. It's not just a great idea from a CIO or a CTO or whatever manager. No, it should be something that's owned by all involved in the end. So communicate, explain in multiple ways. Then you will not be destroying 70% of that huge amount of money. 900 billion in this case. There are also positive examples, of course. I mentioned a few already, but also big data used in an African gold mine. And because of the extra data they got and they could process that and analyze that, they found some fluctuations in a certain process during leaching. Well, bottom line, 3.7% increased yield. With gold, it's 20 million every year again. That's interesting. Because of the advanced analytics, the big data analytics, they could do so. There are more of these examples, and probably you know a few yourselves as well. And the bottom one I would like to point to right now, 3D printing. It is already in use for quite some time. I think the first one I noticed was in the UK, where we had a MESI event where we could see one of the first 3D printers. But it was at that point in time, in 2012, already in use for producing prototype parts, but also spare parts for the automotive industry in the same region. There was a collaboration between quite a few manufacturers and the university and a manufacturing technology center. And they invested together in this new technology at that point in time, 11 years ago, mind you, and successfully they exploited, used that 3D printing for their businesses. And there are more of these. So I definitely encourage you to go on. I don't want to scare you off. Yesterday, going back to MES, because this conference is about MES and Industry 4, both of them, so I won't ignore MES. And I asked you to indicate from a certain list of improvement elements, what did you see? This was question number 2 for the blue scores. The blue bars are, if you have an MES, what kind of benefits did you observe in your company? And the, what is it, orange-red kind of thing, is what do you expect for those who have no MES yet? Surprisingly, I asked also the question, do you have an MES? And it was 37% of, I think, 169, something like 60 odd people, do have an MES, from those who responded, of course. And only 7% did not have an MES. The stupid thing is, if you look at the numbers, 94 do have an MES, responded in the blue bars, and 90, way more than that indicated having no MES. So I think, and that's also what is here, the none, and I'm one of them, because I'm not a manufacturer, so I was not entitled to answer those questions, actually. Was if you have an MES, then it's question 2. If you have not an MES, but still are a manufacturer, it's question number 3. But in order to open the poll, you have to have an answer, because otherwise you couldn't see the results. So I guess that non-aspect are all those people who are not a manufacturer, but a system integrator, a partner of critical manufacturing, or maybe even an employee of critical manufacturing. I'm fine. But the trend is obvious that OEE scores best here, highest. I don't know whether it's surprising, because we have been talking about OEE, and it's the most used KPI, so I'm not really surprised that either you have seen improvement, significant improvement, or you expect to see that improvement. Quality is often part of the whole initiative. The right quality of your products, that's essential for your success. The quality you agreed on with your customer. So, yes, in line with what I expected, to be honest. And then, of course, you can talk about the others, and it's a little bit varying, but more or less at the same level, so around the 10%. It's capacity utilization, on-time shipments, yield, throughput, well, and some others. Time to market is a little bit low compared to the rest. So either you did not see an improvement, or you don't expect an improvement there, because only very few of you said, this is important to me, I've seen improvement or expect it. Maybe it's due to the fact you are the manufacturers and not the guys who sell the stuff and are responsible for delivery. I guess that's the reason. And the nons, of course, that are all the people who are not supposed to answer the question at all, but you want to see what the others have done. And I can't disagree with that, of course. Another question I asked you yesterday was this one, about the anticipated benefits of advanced analytics, like AI, machine learning, and all that kind of things. And where do you expect, or maybe already see, some benefits? And well, efficiency, productivity, quality are by far the top three. Then you have the midsection, is cost, increased speed, and yield. Safety is something that's not included for whatever reason. And still, I think there is a potential there. If you have your data about your operation, your process, progress, etc., everything that is out of the ordinary may be related to safety. Certain issues that occur, keep track of them. Basically, nearly every company I have been working with, or every company I've been working with, is doing so. Because safety is priority number one by far in most companies. Safety for your people in the first place. Safety for the environment, you can argue. But still it is, because it's quite expensive if you're not. And that's, of course, due to legislation. Okay, are you ready? Is it indeed smart to invest in Industry 4? Or even in Industry 3, if that's your question today? Should that be your first steps, maybe? Is your organization ready for it? Is it capable of adopting those new technologies and methodologies? In other words, is our organizational structure right, ready for it, fit for it? Are our people well trained, or the skill sets are matching what we need? And it's also, bottom line, do we get anything positive out of this? It should help us to become more successful. What's the value for the company? That's always the most thing to look at. Does it help us? And often that's financial, but there are also other strategic goals that may be in play. And can we do this also on the long run? Is it something that we can do now, but we don't know in the future, where we can sustain it? All kinds of questions you have to ask before you start. And how to do so? Well, yesterday we got a great keynote about this topic, SIRI, the Smart Industry Readiness Index from Singapore. And they include, indeed, the entire supply chain, that value network. And that's exactly what Industry 4 is doing. Of course, Industry 3, or at least manufacturing, that's what we have here in the middle. And that's, of course, an essential part, because if we don't make the stuff, well, the rest is, of course, not existing. But if the rest is not existing, you can't manufacture. It's always that chicken and egg situation you're in. And basically, in order to leverage this kind of things, you need to have, as a manufacturer at least, a certain level of maturity, a certain level of performance to be a reliable partner in that supply network. If not, you will be kicked out and someone else takes your place. So this is what has been, Nick explained this model, and with the building blocks, the pillars and the dimensions, and at this level you do the assessment, and then you can score. And just one thing I like to point out, if you score the results or do the assessment, in this particular case, we left out facility. That's what we did not take into account in this particular example. But basically, it helps you to identify your weak spots. The weakest link determines the strength of a chain. Well, that's in your performance, that's not different. It's the same story. So if you have, in this case, workforce learning and development, only a 1, well, that populates up to the higher levels. But it means also, if you address that issue, immediately your readiness will go up to a higher level. And the same does apply with the next topic I want to address, and that's also part of the title, is that manufacturing maturity, an assessment of your manufacturing maturity or manufacturing capability maturity, because it's in what are you capable of as manufacturer. And that's where I want to go to. And it goes hand in hand with predictability. The higher level, your level of maturity, capability is, the more predictable are your results. The better you will be able to be in control. The lowest level, initial, do as you think is okay. At the moment you have to make a decision, ad hoc. There is a goal somewhere here, but no way you will achieve it. The chance is very, very small. If you have managed, you have standardized your operations to a certain extent, you know your goal N is not achieved, was not realistic, so you put N plus A, a little bit more time, more money, etc. But you're at least way better able to achieve that particular goal. And the more up you get in this model, the higher your performance will be, the better your performance will be with respect to whatever goal you are observing, assessing. And you will be able to, well, put the bar higher, perform better, improve. That's, of course, the idea that you want to get hold on, that you know how to get from a lower level to a higher level, how to improve. Well, maturity models, at least they help you to create a shared vision. And it's also something that helps you to establish a common language, I would say, that you have the same interpretation about all those buzzwords and other terms and definitions. Standardize your KPIs is something that is also helped by defining all kinds of things within the framework, the context of this maturity model and the assessment of it. It helps you to set priorities. Identify your weakest spots and do something about them. And last but not least, objective measurements. Because if you do the assessment, you want to have a good set of proof that you are indeed doing as is expected according to a certain level. That you are indeed performing at that level. So it's not just, oh, I think it's this, or no, solid proof, evidence. So that's something. You know, there are also downsides, of course. There are many models, and no one is perfect. Maybe all models are wrong. That's also quoted by, I don't know, yesterday morning. Some models are useful. Well, this manufacturing maturity capability model or capability maturity model is definitely one of them in the situation you are looking for your manufacturing operations and how to improve, how to get to the next level. They do not address all of the issues. Certain things are not included. Be aware of those. Many details are left out. They say, for example, you have to do peer reviews. Okay, but how? That's not included, just as an example. And last but not least, if you are in times of crisis, you're not going to help. So that's not the right way to do it. But if you have done this already, and you know how well you are organized, how your processes are running, your people skill sets are, and your technology is helping you, well, then you are better in control. And also can take care of those adverse events I already mentioned. And then probably you don't get into that crisis. It's important to know about your strategy, because strategy is different for every company. That's okay. It's your strategy. Your success. It defines how you want to be successful. Okay, that's your starting point. First of all, the ways of working. How you have your processes shaped, defined, and executed. That is the most important part to start with. Your ways of working. Of Of course, your people and people's skill sets are important. Are they fit for duty? Organization and governance. Do they have the right roles, responsibilities, authorities, and all that kind of things? And how's your governance organized? That's a dynamic thing. And last but not least, it's technology. IT, OT, ST, smart technology. It should be all included. It can be all included. They contribute to the successful realization of your strategy. All 4 domains are equally important. They should be aligned. And then, of course, we have 5 levels. As any maturity model has 5 levels, other things need to be having 5 levels as well. I understood this morning, I'm fine. And that equals to 1 manufacturing maturity model. It's published in MESI White Paper 38. And if you're interested in this, it's absolutely worthwhile reading. And this is the initial step. It's the definition, how it's put together. And very important is to realize that if we have those 5 levels and those 4 domains contributing to our successful strategy, or the realization of that strategy, if this is your result of an assessment at some point in time, I don't want to blame people particularly, but this is the case. They are lagging. We have a misalignment gap. Therefore, the overall level is 1, because it's the weakest link. If you would invest in technology only, see an MES MOM or an Industry 4 project just as a technology project, technology investment, with IT in charge and only them involved, it will fail. You get great IT probably, but it is not helping you. Because if you introduce new technologies in order to do a better job, you should pay attention to your ways of working as well, of course, and to your organizational structure and governance, and people's skill set. It's all 4 domains need to be in alignment. So this is not the way to do it. And if anyone asks me, who should be in charge, who should own investments in Industry 3 or 4, it's the business, it's operations. No one else. Of course, technology is an enabling factor. IT has to play a role, a very important one. But it's not the only thing. Many projects failed because of that single-sided approach. IT is doing the job, and when they are ready, they throw it over the fence and have fun, hey guys, in operations. So that's not the idea. So of course we may be ambitious. We should be, I think. And whether you strive for the top level, you can argue, but at least you want to improve. So make steps that you include in your program, in your roadmap. Set out what the ambition is. Make a blueprint of the future architecture, including all 4 domains. And then get to it and realize it. Step by step, small steps at a time. Big bangs fail, period. So step by step, it allows you to revisit whether that dot on the horizon in your blueprint is still on the right spot. Because the world around us is changing. And maybe internal aspects are also changing. I know companies with a new CEO every 3 years, with a new strategy every 3 years. Okay, so that's the way to approach this and do it. The second white paper I want to point to is 53. That's a big one. Normally a white paper has, 10, 15 pages. This is over 100, I think. But it includes all those aspects for all operational activity groups according to ISO 95 for production, maintenance, quality, and inventory operations and activities, describing every level for all the groups of activities in there. Taking into account the aspects of maturity, roles and responsibilities, succession plans. Do we have a plan B in case of when something is not available, not working? Be prepared for those adverse events. It is about the policies, procedures, our operations, our processes, our activities, etc. The technology and tools, they play an important role, an enabling role. And whether it's Industry 3 tools or Industry 4 tools, I don't care. It applies. Training. Training in how to execute the operations, all the activities, how to do them, but also how to use the tools. And information integration and KPIs is last but not least. So it's a whole set of aspects of maturity that is included in the assessment. So it's not about your current level that much, but it's about identifying where to put your attention to, what to put in focus, where to invest in, where to change, where to improve. Your weakest spots, making use of your better elements, your best practices. That's also a way to improve. It makes you able to create a plan, a step-by-step plan towards the future, to a more successful future. I will go over these slides quite quickly, otherwise we run out of time, despite the fact that I got 15 minutes extra because we started early. But I will explain it later on. They are in the slides, they are in the white paper. So the second poll of this morning, I like to do an experiment. A very high level, brief assessment, especially for the manufacturing people here in the room, of your manufacturing maturity level. And what we do, I will provide some slides, 2 slides next, an overview of characteristics of the levels of maturity in operations, in manufacturing. We start at the bottom, level 1. And what it basically does, at level 1, there are all things mentioned that if you see, okay, that's the characteristic, that's mine, then you are level 1, because that's typically what you do not want to see, but if it's there, you're only level 1. For the level 2 questions, it's the same story. It's describing what you do not want to see. From level 3 up, it is indicating what you should have in place. Must have in place, so, and if it's not there, you go back to the previous level. If any one of those elements mentioned there is not present in your current ways of working, your current organization, etc., then you go back to the previous level. That's the idea. Of course, you can look at all kinds of things, resources handled, your personnel, your material, equipment, etc. But also, it may have different levels of maturity. So you may be quite mature in technology, IT, you may be quite mature in other things, but if one of the aspects is at a lower level, that determines your actual level for the entire thing. Like that misalignment gap I showed you some slides back. So, please open your app and go with me when I go through those levels from the bottom one to the top one. And if something applies to you, if it comes down, if, for example, if you have heavy personal dependencies of how the process is being executed, that you're dependent on your local experts only. If one shift is definitely performing better or worse than others, there's no constant, no independence from who is doing the job. They all should be well trained, equally well trained, and that is typically characteristic of level 1. If that's the case for you, then you are level 1. Also, no uniform view on the plan or material on the shop floor, whatever. High variability in efforts, the craftsmanship thing that you have some champions, they do the job, and the rest is, I don't know. If that applies to you, this kind of aspects, then you're at level 1 and you can provide that as input in the poll. If that's all not applicable to you, then we go to the next, level 2. Processes are pretty repeatable, but fail under stress. When we have a last-minute rush order, and the rush order gets through quite okay, but the rest is chaos. That's typically, what you can observe in level 2. If you talk about documentation, good work instructions, and other things that are required to do the job properly, there are some systems used, and maybe Excel even theoretically, but are not really connected. It's bits and pieces here and there, not really connected. That's typically at level 2. So if you have a scheduling application and you have MES, but you are, the output of the scheduling is a piece of paper with the plan. This is what to do today, and MES is recording, but they are not connected. Then you're definitely not level 3, because then it should be connected, then it must be connected. So then this is something that may happen, and if that's the case, then you're level 2. Some things here at the right-hand side also, data collections are done manually to a large extent, keyed into Excel maybe, but that's it. No integration of shop floor and planning, as I mentioned before. That kind of aspect. If that's applicable to your situation, please enter level 2 as a response to the poll. Defined, level 3. They're going up. If you look at that, process defined and uniform. So everything, all processes, all activities are well defined, standardized to a large extent. Everything that is required to do a proper job is in place. The tools and the systems are normal to use. People know, and it's a daily job, and no questions asked about that, and they are well trained to use them in the right way. The unexpected deviations in the processes, there are always some, but they are limited. Well, in the first 2 levels, they are more often. It's gradual, I know, but still. And you can read at the right-hand side, there's a number of things that definitely need to be in place in order to call yourselves, I'm on level, or mention yourselves as being on level 3. If this is the case, wait with answering a moment, because we have to check first if level 4 may be applicable to you as well. So wait for a second, please. If everything for level 3 is in place, are the next things also in place? Then you may be level 4. Things we must see for that level. Defined, repeatable, monitored, and managed. Also over time, different versions will be introduced seamlessly and well-defined, and you get predictable output, basically. Processes are also updated regularly when it's necessary to do so, because of new product variants, etc. Systems are connected, monitored, also the systems themselves. You look at them, whether they are functioning well, working well, and if certain things are changing in your operations, your process, the technology, the systems will be updated accordingly. That's a normal thing to do for you if you are at level 4, because you are in control. And everything you do, you know what the result will be. Predictability is the key word here. If that's applicable to you, with also the remarks at the right-hand side, then wait a second again. If it's not, then you still are at level 3. Then you can enter level 3. If not all of these things are in place, are applicable to you, you're level 3. First check level 5, if so far you passed all the bars. Everything of 4 is in place. But now continuous improvement is more or less baked in everything you do. You're focusing on, can we do better? And you are assessing, measuring, and identifying your potential next steps. You assess also the added value. You prioritize on added value, by the way, and you execute. That's the continuous improvement, the optimizing, and that's, the term is also different, you know. Quantitatively managed, defined, managed, it's all nouns. Level 5 is a verb, things you do. It's continuous improvement. If all those things at the top apply to your situation, please enter your level 5. Okay, well, few remarks while the technicians can assess and prepare the results to show in a minute or two. ISO 95 is the basis for this assessment. ISO 95, to my opinion, is the standard for manufacturing operations. And about what technology you're talking, 3, 4, or whatever, that's not important. It's about manufacturing operations, the things we do in our factories. That's important. Yes, we have production, we have maintenance, we have quality and inventory. And for your assessment, you may say, okay, I don't want to do everything in one go. You focus on production first or quality first or whatever. You can make a sub-scope of your total efforts in your factory to start with and do the assessment. For each of those 4 categories of operation management, a whole set of dedicated questions for all the groups of operations depicted here, all 8, are included in the white paper and guide you through that assessment in the way we've done it at a high level just a minute ago. Also, you can narrow down the scope a bit, that you don't do the entire enterprise, just one site or one department, one area. So that's also something you can do to make it digestible and keep the effort initially limited and do the exercise and learn from that. Again, sorry, lowest maturity, because it's varying. Different groups, different kinds of operations may be leading to different conclusions, different levels. The lowest level is the one which is applicable, after all, for your entire organization. Of course, we want to have proof. So interview the people. Ask them what they do. Is that matching with what we intended to do? And be fine to do. Observe as they are doing the job. There's less interfering because they just do the job and you monitor and record what is happening. Of course, you can review documents and records of if you have an MES in place or whatever IT, you have data, you have information, use that one. Just deliver the proof. That's important. And be prepared up front. What is key for your success with respect to the activity or the group in scope? Not with just, oh, that looks nice. No. Be prepared and set the criteria for success up front based on added value for your organization. Something like this may come out. It is a real example, by the way, from a real case we have done. It seems to be a little bit odd that the right-hand side is all one and the rest is higher than that. But at least it's based on a strategy, and you can create a plan and a roadmap for the future. And it is step by step, continuous improvement steps. That should be the basis for your roadmap towards the future. And by knowing your current level or your current performance, performance is always related to added value, mind you, that helps you to define those steps and execute them. And check whether you have achieved it, because the same assessment, you can redo it after you have done certain improvements and see whether indeed you can deliver the evidence that you made that achievement, that improvement. Can I have the results of the latest poll? So, wow. It's 5 people have level 5. Congratulations. It was, of course, a very short, brief assessment, but it's looking promising. The next step is, of course, to deliver the proof in detail. But if you look at the whole thing, level 2, well, still moving, but level 2 and level 3-ish, that is where the most people are. Also, a significant portion in level 1, which is not surprising. Nick told us yesterday that the average score for the series was 1.55, between 1 and 2. Well, 2-ish is the result of, in average, for manufacturing companies, if you look at this manufacturing maturity model. And sometimes people are, if you ask management, you get a more optimistic outcome normally than if you ask with the subject matter experts in the operations themselves. They know better. And once I have done this with the customer, we came to, indeed, 2.1, around 2. And the manager was saying, no, at least 4. And then we had to prove, particularly all the arguments, we have to deliver the arguments to prove that they were not level 4. And they were highly disappointed, I can tell you. But it's the way it is. You know, if you are level 2, there's nothing wrong with that. There's enough room to improve. There is great promising future. Of course, if you're level 1, then there's a lot of work to do. And I would say start today or tomorrow latest. But anyway, this is in line with what I expected up front. Actually, I have a draft graph in a hidden slide, by the way, which is all, more or less according to this result. So you are pretty predictable because you are manufacturers, and we have seen many manufacturers. Any surprises, any questions about it, by the way, feel free to ask now or later on. Okay, thank you very much. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Of course, you have to do more detailed, thorough job than we have done today, and in the end, you get to that continuous improvement plan. At the end, I shared a lot of thoughts with you already, and if you want to have more, feel free to ask. But anyway, what we want to do is innovate, because we want to improve. Therefore, we need to change, improve our performance, getting more value for our consumers, because then they will pay us more. It's just a business thing. And we talk about a perfect order delivery, that at least the consumer, the customer, is not disappointed, that he gets what he has been asking for, that we agreed on. The perfect order delivery is one of the key elements, I would say, in our performance. Then we have a solid business. Of course, if the demand is there. That asks for visibility, transparency, that we know what we are doing, how well things are running now, real time. That we get warning in time if it tends to go out of order, that we get a deviation which we do not want, or can try to avoid even such adverse events from happening. We are prepared, but if we can avoid it, it's even better. Visibility, transparency, and it's not only in our own factory, to be honest. Industry 4 thinking, smart manufacturing thinking, is including the entire supply chain, value chain. It's also including the entire life cycle of the product. So we have to collaborate with many partners. Be aware of that. So it requires constantly and consistent and timely information. So we need to capture that data and share it. It's connectivity, it's communication from data, but also collaboration between people and groups of people. So we need to seamlessly integrate all our systems and technologies. And we need to collaborate within our factory and with our partners in that network. That's key for success. And that has something that should be in your mind for, not in the back of your mind, but in focus from the start on. It's the only way to get it done in the right way. If you talk about new opportunities, they will be enabled by those increased levels of cooperation between IT and OT. It's about technology on one hand, but it's way more about people and culture. And that's a challenging part of IT and OT convergence, by the way. And then we're not talking yet about how do we converge with the business. IT, with all due respect, is delivering tools. It's not the goal in itself, it's not the holy grail. But it's an enabling tool often, and therefore important. So we should not ignore it. It's about integration of all those kind of things. And in the end, we talk about a holistic approach. Yeah? Everything together. And that makes it also complex maybe, and difficult and challenging. On the other hand, if it would have been easy, we would not have been here today and yesterday in this great event. Because all our problems would have been solved already, and we could have a nice vacation maybe in Portugal, instead of working hard and getting more knowledge in order to do better. I prefer the last one, by the way. It's way more fun. So standardization, digitalization, integration, all those key words, I hope I put some associations in your mind with respect to these terms, that it's not just a buzzword and you don't know what we are talking about. And higher levels of maturity, and I would say level 3 is the minimum you need to be at with respect to your manufacturing capability, maturity, in order to be able to consistently leverage the benefits of the new technologies from Industry 4 and smart. Of course, there are a few exceptions here and there, but that's a basic rule of thumb. Take care that you are having that solid foundation on top of which you can build that Industry 4 new world of technology and ways of working. Yeah? Integrated systems are the enablers. And last but not least, we have seen crises are always there. Everything is quite fragile. That's what we learned from it again. And all those smart technologies and concepts will help us to do a better job and to avoid all kinds of nasty things, I would say. Assessments like Siri and the capability maturity model maybe help you to identify strong and weak spots and create a plan to improve. And last but not least, and this is something I nearly always tell at the end of my presentations, it's about you. It's about people. It's about us. And therefore we need to collaborate and communicate at all levels in order to have the noses of us all in the right direction, the same direction, that we pull the carriage of our company equally hard in the right direction in order to improve efficiently and effectively. It's about you, it's about us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you so much. 73 pages of content for these amazing people. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
It was a big pleasure. Thank you very much.
Again, an applause for Jan. Thank you.